Keep smiling, y'all. We are live and we're live and we're live. Ooh. Hi, everybody. This is a pop-up dance conversation with Gail. We decided that we wanted to get on and we wanted to talk about, we kind of let our guests talk all the time. So we want to talk about, sorry guys, just trying to make sure it's straight. We wanted to talk about racism in dance and what we think and how we are believing. So this is Crystal and Gail and Jessica. And we're having a dance conversation tonight. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So say hi to everybody, you guys.
Hi, everybody.
Crystal, you have the questions. So these questions that we're talking about tonight with Dance Conversations with Gail, and guys, if you all have any questions, if you're looking on and you have any questions, please put it in the chat and we will watch and address it, okay? But because we're monitoring, of course, Facebook. So if you have any additional questions or if you want to make any comments, it's all good. It's all about conversation. It's all about taking the sting out of talking about racism so that it becomes a conversation. And even in the dance world, that's why we're here, Dance Conversations, it becomes a part of our conversation. Not that we want to take it for granted, because we don't, but what we do want to do is make it a part of talking, make it a part of conversation so that we can work through what's happening and that we won't repeat what has happened in the past. So that's our goal. Our goal is to make it a conversation and not bash. It's not about bashing, but it is about coming up with solutions, how we can avoid the microaggressions that happen, how we can avoid the implicit and the seen and the unseen biases that happen. Yeah, all of that. So you ladies ready to get started?
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to know that we're doing this because we would have dance conversations after our dance conversations.
Right.
And they led to more questions. And so we wanted to have an opportunity where you can share or ask a question that maybe you haven't been able to ask on a dance conversation, or maybe you weren't sure how to formulate it, or something that you've been thinking about. Maybe it was a little off topic, but this is the time, this is the chance that you get to. So we've got some startup questions, absolutely.
Great.
So our first question was, is the Nutcracker racist? Is the Nutcracker racist?
Nutcracker racist? Who wants to take that one? Want me to take it?
You take it.
I'll take it. So, is the Nutcracker racist? Well, it was created during a time when the scenes, and we're probably talking about, well, we can talk about the whole thing, but it was created during a time where Blacks didn't dance in ballet, particularly, but and the characters that they created were not supposed to be implicitly racist at the time, or even now. I don't believe it was created with the thought of, oh, we're just gonna be racist up in this Nutcracker. Mm-hmm. But what has happened is, as time has gone by and we are more aware of what racism is, then you have things that are happening. For instance, why does the character of Clara or Marie, whichever one you guys use, why aren't there more Black Claras or Maries? Every time there's one, there's a big deal because it's one here or one there, or there was one here. We're in South Carolina, Crystal's in Georgia, but there was one here probably, I don't know, at least 10 years ago. And we haven't seen another one since. Why is that? I cannot believe that it's because Black girls are not able to dance the role. That's just not a reality, I know. So are we looking at that role with, okay, she's got to be a white girl? Are we looking at it like that? And that's what we have to go in. We have to search our minds and our hearts looking at, is Clara, why is Clara, and why her parents have to be a certain race? To me, it's all characters. So if it's all characters, then why can't Marie be Black and her dad be Asian and her mom be white or Black, or it doesn't matter racially because they're all characters.
Right.
Even going into the second act with the disvertisements, and you have the Russian dolls and you have the dewdrop, and I mean, why, what are we looking for when we pick the people that will dance those dances?
Right.
What are we looking for?
Right.
And that's what we have to check our heart with. What are we looking for? So even with the Chinese, why does it have to be Chinese people? Or even when we dress up, why do we have to do the caricatures with the eyes and the long beard and the ponytail? Why does it have to be that? Now, I will say that I went to see Shenyang this year. Beautiful, gorgeous. I loved it. And I was told when back probably in the fall, I was doing some choreography, and the theme was Chinese New Year or Chinese Christmas. And a lady came to me and said, one of the teachers, and she said, you cannot do the little fast feet because that's racist. And I said, oh, okay. But I did my research, and I also, when I went to Shenyang, that is a part of their movement. It's a very fast movement of the feet. And if I had known then, I would have kept that in because it's a part of their traditional Chinese dancing. Now, of course, I don't know where this came from, the fingers pointing up in the air and all of that. But we do get to look at some of the things that are happening within the dances themselves. So racism would be more so, I think, that we're choosing people to dance because of their skin color as opposed to the merit of their talent. Does that make sense? Yeah. So is the Nutcracker racist? I don't think the Nutcracker itself is racist. I think that when we make choices about who's dancing this and that, other, that makes it racist.
Right.
Makes it racist.
And one of my friends had posted, she said, casting, which is exactly right. Like, you're casting, but nowadays, there's so many international, interracial marriages and families and things like that. So, like, it doesn't have to match. Like, just because, you have an all-white family, it doesn't have to be an all-white family. Nowadays, if you want to represent the population, it is a mixed culture.
Yes, absolutely. We are so diverse in our community now that there's no reason why it can't look, racially diverse. There's no reason why it can't be that.
Right.
But I think that if we always settle for what we've gotten, then we'll always get it, the same thing. We need to pose the question to these company directors. We need to even to studios. When you are looking, and if you're out there, you're welcome to make comments. Hey, Stephanie. Hey, Whitney. Hey, Deborah. Hey, Cynthia. If you're out there, you are so welcome to comment about when you are casting for roles, talking about the Nutcracker. I mean, and we're going to ask some other questions too, but when you're casting for roles in Nutcracker, what are you looking for? Like, really, what are you looking for?
Right.
And tradition plays a big role in some things, but we have to get past tradition and come into 2020. Some traditions are good, don't get me wrong. Some traditions are great, but when it imposes itself upon us and it becomes racially degrading. Like I heard there was a Russian company and they had their dancers to dress up in a with black unitard, and they even had the black girl to dress in the black unitard,
Mhm.
and they wanted her to paint her face even darker than she was.
Mm.
And thank God she refused, but the other ladies didn't. But still, that right there is racist.
Right,
Right.
right,
That right
right,
there is racist. Because
right.
that's
Yeah,
and
Ashley
their
McKinnon said that
excuse was
yeah,
that that's the way they've always done it
right.
traditionally.
Yeah, we got to get to the place where the theater world is doing blind casting. That's what Ashley McKinnon was saying. Can we really just get away from looking at race and just focus on, like you said, the talent? We got to just look at pure talent.
Right. Because I think back then, like if you think about how long the Nutcracker's been, going on, they had all white cast. So they probably put those things into, the costuming and choreography to make them look different because they would all look the same. But nowadays, we have plenty of people to pick from to represent those things, and not just represent those things, represent the real, the major roles as well.
Right.
Yes. I remember, now this wasn't the Nutcracker actually, but I remember, I've told this story a couple of times and I'll keep telling it. I was doing what they call a ballet blanc, a white ballet. I actually wasn't doing it. I was substituting because a young lady who was white would not show up for rehearsals. And I probably did 80 to 90% of the rehearsals, but
Wow.
she got to do the performance
Right.
because I cut the line, messed up the line, my little darkness. I had on white tights, I had on a white costume, but my little darkness messed up the line. So I was not allowed. And I rehearsed 80 to 90% of that dance. I was
Wow.
crushed. Was that fair to me? No, that's not fair to anybody.
Mhm.
So we got to go with talent. And just because she didn't show up, how about that?
Right. Because
Right.
that wouldn't have been accepted at all had roles been reversed
Right.
and you had been cast in the lead role. Had you not shown up to 80 to 90% of the rehearsals, you would have been cut
Right.
after the first 10%.
Right.
So
They would have been
not
placed.
even letting it get that far,
Never
but just
one.
because, right, miss one rehearsal.
Miss
Mhm.
one.
So yeah.
One person. What's the
Yeah.
next question? Let's go on.
The next question, and I'll be very transparent here. I'm having a little 3-year-old meltdown outside my door, so I'm gonna read the next question, put myself on mute, but I'll still be listening and I'll be right back on to comment. So
Okay.
what's worse? This kind of came out of one of our dance conversations. The us on us bias or the them on us racism.
Oh my.
Yeah, that was a meaty one.
Oh my.
So us on us versus racism, bias, sorry, us on us bias versus the us on them.
I've talked about colorism before, and I had an in-depth conversation the other day with a friend of mine who was saying that racism was not as bad as us on us colorism, but it's almost apples and oranges. We talking about racism, we talking about racism. We talking about colorism, we talking about colorism. It is in two different places.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So should there be colorism? No, there should not. We should be supporting one another, no matter what your color is. But right now we're talking about Black folks. So we, light skin, dark skin, that's the whole issue. Light skin, dark skin, okay, I'm just gonna be real transparent right here. I have said she got that part because she was light skinned.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't get the part because she was dark skinned. So I've said that. And
Right.
and it's a reality. Tell me it's not a reality, y'all.
It's a
That's on
reality.
Facebook. It's a reality that we what's the word? Light skin is more acceptable, and it
Mhm.
dates back to our
Slavery.
ancestors. Yeah. If you were light skinned,
House
you got in
Negroes,
the
house
okay.
Negroes versus
Yes,
field Negroes.
that's right.
So yeah,
So if you were
yeah, we've
lighter
been.
skinned, means you had more whiteness in you,
Mhm,
supposedly, or
mhm,
yes, you were mixed, very mixed, and you got to be in the house. You got to, they even had quadroon balls and things like that.
mhm.
And the lighter you were, the better you were.
Yeah,
So how
and
has that translated? Go ahead,
we
Crystal.
have we have been conditioned to accept that. We have been conditioned to say that this is the norm and this is the standard and it's okay. We talked earlier about multiracial families, and since my little one is here and y'all can all see her, that and Jessica has a mixed race family as well. Mama Gail, you've got a mixed race family. So we on this call, we are all experiencing that. And in my own home, I've had someone tell my oldest daughter is a little bit darker than my other two. And I had someone tell me that the middle child, she was like, oh, she's so pretty. And I said, she's just as pretty as her big sister.
That's right.
Because I have been conditioned to look for that. I've been conditioned to say, to see that light versus dark, and I don't want it in my house. I can't. Sarah is just as wonderful as Serena is. They both just as beautiful, and one happened to get more beach walks than the other one. That's it. So we've been conditioned to think that something's wrong or something's different or something's less. And we've got to break that cycle. We have to break, and so my children just say, oh, well, I'm brown like mommy and you're peach like daddy. And if that's the way they want to associate it, that's fine. But there's no right, wrong. We had a big conversation. Of course, Sesame Street did a big thing about racism. So we had a big conversation in our own home about about how it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, you're brown like mommy and you're peach like daddy, but we're still a family and we still love each other. So when we take that into the dance studio, we have to remember that the same rules still apply. Even though we were made to condition that that's better, at the end of the day, the house Negroes were still black, and so, there was,
sold off.
right, exactly, got sold off, got treated just like the rest of them, because at the end of the day, we were still black. So we have to end the biasness. We have to recondition our own brains. And I know a lot of us as African Americans, we don't want to think that we have that we don't have those thoughts in us. But if we're real and honest with ourselves, we do. We have been conditioned, and we have to get over that hump that she's not better because, and like Mama Gail said, we've all done it. I've done it. Oh, she got light skin, she got good eyes and good hair.
Oh my, not the good eyes
and good hair.
Yeah. Well, to piggyback on what you said, Crystal, like I came from a majority white school, like community, everything, and I didn't realize, black on black biases until I started hanging around more people of color. Because because like you said before, like white people just see black, they don't see light skin, dark skin, all that.
Right. Okay.
So it's a touchy subject, but from where I was, I didn't see or hear anybody say anything on that until I started, changing my surroundings.
Right.
I know a lot of people on here probably have heard of the 1-drop rule. Y'all know the 1-drop rule?
1 drop of black
You know
blood.
the 1-drop rule? 1-drop rule.
No,
1 drop of black blood means you're black.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. 1 drop. So your great grandparent could have been black. That means you black. And that's something again that came out of, I was just reading an article that I pulled up from 1998 talking about how white people wanted more slaves. So anybody that had any black blood was profitable. And that's how that whole 1-drop rule came about.
Right.
They wanted to, have more property. So it didn't matter how much or how far back your black blood was. If you could prove it, then you were property as well. And how does that translate into today? Again, we talk about the lighter skinned dancers. And don't beat me up, you guys, when I say this, but I looked at a picture the other day of a lot of the top ballerinas, and they were all very light skinned. And it makes me wonder. I'm not saying that they're not talented, they are super talented, but it really makes me wonder what if that plays a part in it, the whole light skin, dark skin thing, if that plays a part in the role. Are light skinned dancers less threatening, or can we blend in or something like that?
I would like to hear from like Lauren Anderson, who's a darker sister, especially considering her age, when she came up and how that was.
We should call her.
Yeah, we need, if Lauren Anderson, if you're on Facebook and you happen to see this, or if somebody has connections, we need a dance conversation with Lauren Anderson.
Yes.
We need a dance conversation. We're making an honest 100% beg and plead, but it would be good to hear her story, and how she came up, and compare that to a Misty Copeland,
Right.
Because,
Right.
I think it'll help identify the struggles. We had Whitney Hewell on, and she's a darker sister. But as we were talking about racism, we've also talked about bodies. So, she mentioned that she never had to struggle in terms of body type because she's a very thin frame.
And tall.
So, just comparing all of those things and how that struggle was coming up in the Black ballet world, with your skin a little bit darker versus, someone else, and how much easier it may have been for one route than the other because of those things.
All right.
Cynthia Dwyer, hey Cynthia, for joining us. Thank you. Casting for who can be best or do the role best, who has shown character and hard work, those are the ones who should get the part. That's correct. That is very correct. Those are the ones that should get the part. And whether they're lighter skin or darker skin should not matter at all. And you know what? The whole light skin, dark skin thing, I think it matters more for the females than it does for the males. I mean, I've seen some dancers that are dark, really dark skin, fabulous dancers, and nobody says anything about their color.
Right.
So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How do we approach that?
How do we correct it?
Yeah, correct is a good word.
Yeah. I think that one's going to be a tough one because it would mean, we're already in a cutthroat industry. So it's me over you. So I might see you in the audition and I know you can dance circles around me, but if they happen to give me the part and now I'm supposed to give it up. So I think that one is a tough one considering our industry. If it was something else, I think that it would be easy to say, okay, this is what I'm gonna do to tear down racism. But it would have to take those kind of bold moves because at the end of the day, the director's gonna be like, well, I want you. So what you gonna do about it?
Right.
It's gotta go with whoever's casting and directing and choreographing and all that stuff.
I think we have to have more of these dance conversations so that way casting directors will be challenged if they make a decision that because everybody in the room knows it.
Right.
I should get that part.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that if we begin to have more of these dance conversations, then casting directors will think twice about casting the wrong person. Sorry, I got background conversation.
We do have background conversation. I think also that having the conversations, but I don't know, we were talking in one of our dance conversations with Gail over the past week, and I said, we gotta keep going to these auditions. Don't just say, I'm Black, they ain't gonna pick me. If it's 20 people in the room, it's 20 dancers in the room, and 15 of them are Black, I mean, they gotta see something. They gotta see some color. And they're gonna see not just color, but how we can represent instead of just giving up, not going. I went and auditioned, even though I didn't think I was going to get the part, and I didn't get the part. I didn't get accepted into the school, because they wanted to offer me modern, and nothing against modern. I'm just a ballerina, and I turned it down. It is what it is. I told them I wanted to do ballet. So, Yeah, there you go. What do you think? So, Jessica, you said about the whole light skin, dark skin thing that you really didn't, you just see black people.
I'm saying in general,
Okay.
that is, yes, that is what I think the majority of white people
She's having a little
talk about.
issue.
Can you hear me?
Okay, there you go.
Okay. I think it's saying it's unable to unstable.
Yeah, she froze again. She was saying in general that white people just see black people and they don't see all the different shades of coloring. I think Jessica might be special.
My bad.
Jessica and Ren are like a totally different.
Go say what you gotta say. You're
Okay.
back.
So yeah, so what I was saying was growing up, like I never heard like light skin, dark skin, none of that. But also I grew up in a majority white community. So I didn't hear that until I changed, the culture around me. So the schools that I teach in are majority dancers of color and things like that. So I, started hearing different language and lingo and things like that. So that's when I started hearing it and I was like, wait a minute, what? Like it just didn't register to me that that was even a thing.
Right. I got you. So we taught you that?
Yeah, y'all taught me that. But I still don't like, even today, I don't be like, oh, she's light skinned, she's dark skinned, this, that. Because people be like, what color was she? Black. Well, was she brown? Was she dark? Was she light? I was like, I don't know the classifications. I don't know.
Right.
Okay.
It's funny. That's interesting.
Funny. Well, and this is maybe another story I've told before, but my grandbaby, I wrote a book called Mommy, Where Does God Live? Little plug there. And he is I wonder if I have it. Yes, here it is. I'll show it to you. So this is the book I wrote, right? That's him right there. And this kind of looks like me. She kind of made it look like me, but it looks more like my niece. But when I asked him who this was, he said, that's me. And I said, well, who is that? And he said, that's my mommy. And his mom is white. So I really thought that was a very interesting observation. I said, are you sure? He said, yeah, that's my mom. So when do we
it's just further verification that we teach our children?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Even subconsciously, we teach them.
Right. And so this might be a little kind of off course, but in a way, as a black mom, I had to teach my son he was a black boy because of everything that goes on out here concerning black boys. So that's a whole nother subject.
Okay.
Next question.
What is the first step towards us overcoming racism in dance? Yeah, and I think we've been trying to answer those questions in our dance conversations. And I don't even know if there's a first step, but everybody has to take their own first step. Like we just said, the casting directors have to take their first step and look at talent, look at pure talent. The colleges need to, as we were on our college call, we talked about colleges going to those dance studios or going to those high schools and recruiting in neighborhoods that may not have an opportunity otherwise, exposing themselves, making themselves available to. So I think everybody has a role to play in what their first step is.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good conversation we had the other night with Dr. Wanda Ebright. And she was saying to Jessica, because Jessica posed that question, that she would come. But we as in dance educators, we have to seek out dancers of color. So Jessica, if the majority of your students are Black, then you get Dr. Ebright. She said, invite me, I'll come and see. If they want to go to college, let me come. And maybe there's some scholarships out there. But we have to be the coaches and bring the students in. I remember younger that Dance Theater Harlem came to town, and Miss Ann had Melanie to audition. That's how she got into dance theater. So we have to be advocates for our dancers in order for them to be always telling I'm always telling dancers to go out, to go to New York, to go to Atlanta, wherever they could go, where there are opportunities for them to see other dancers of color, and also audition for these companies, or even go to the summer intensives. If you're not seen, how are you going to be discovered?
Right. And I think that it's important that we expose don't just only send the Black children to Ailey's, don't only send the Black children to Balethnic here in Atlanta, make them go to ABT, make them go to the Atlanta Ballet, make them go to Columbia City Ballet, make them go to these places. And we got to prepare our children. It's like you were saying about your son. You had to prepare him to let him know, listen, you're a Black man, and this is what life is going to be like. So we have to, Jessica has a responsibility. We all have responsibilities to our dancers of color to say, listen, I want you to go to Columbia City Ballet, and I want you to audition, but it might be tough. Right. And you might spend the summer, and nobody may ever correct you one time, but you go and you learn everything that you possibly can.
That's right.
We have to put them out there. So that way they will be tough, so that they will get the exposure. We should not limit them just to the African American companies, because that's the only place they're going to get, because then we're just perpetuating the cycle.
True. That's very true. That's very true. Cynthia says we're taking the first step, talking and trying to understand together. You're right, Cynthia. We are taking the first step. That's why we have to have these dance conversations, because if we don't make it a part of our conversation and get understanding, then we will not be able to talk about it. And that's what's happened all of these years. We've not talked about it. We've not challenged the status quo. And if we don't challenge the status quo, it'll stay the same. It'll stay the same. We were talking about, I was making a kind of a list of best practices as far as how and what we can do. And I know I was talking to Cynthia and telling her that you have to intentionally seek out dancers of color. I mean, because of what's on the TV now, we are no longer pursuing ballet or tap or jazz or African or modern. The techniques are taking back seats to bucking and all of that, what they see on television. So before we can even get them to see these core forms of technique, and I'm not putting one over the other, because I'm challenged now because I love ballet. I'm a Black woman that just loves ballet. And I did say that ballet was the foundation for dance, but I can't say that any longer. I have to take that back, because it's not the foundation for African. Now, does it make it easier? I'm more coordinated because I took ballet, I think. But does it make it easier? I don't think so. It doesn't make African easier, because I have to completely lose that vertical, pull it together and for African dancing. Same thing with jazz, is you just gotta release it and let it go. So, but I digress. We have to definitely seek out dancers of color. What does that mean? That means going into their communities, our communities, going to where it's 90 to 100% African Americans, having auditions. Because guess what? I don't care if you got a studio right here downtown and they just a few blocks away, they not coming to you.
Right.
There's elitism, there's we can't afford it. Can we afford to take dance class? You may have to give out a whole bunch of scholarships. I'm sorry to say that. Now, there are dancers that can afford it. There are Black people who make money. I ain't trying to say we all poor. We ain't all poor. But you may have to go into the areas of town to find those diamonds in the rough in order to cultivate those diamonds. That's all I'm saying. So intentionally seeking out dancers of color for training. You might have, that might involve transportation, but I think the first thing it involves is relationship.
Right, right. Something someone said, oh, it was Dr. Wanda said on our call, she was saying, you know, for the dancers of color that come, their parents find her and say, I'm trusting you with my child, you know, that, you know, making that bond and relationship. And that's not just in the dance studio, and that's just not in the classroom. That's, I'm giving my baby to you to help lead him in the right direction. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. It's about relationships. I think African Americans have a tendency not to put a dollar and cents value on a dance education because we don't see the return. You know, we haven't seen the PhD return. That's something we were talking about after the dance conversation. Right. That, wow, I can get a PhD in dance and I can make some money, and I don't necessarily have to be on the stage, but this is a viable career for me. This is a financially viable career for me. And I think for a lot of I mean, in my own house, like I went and was going to Columbia College for a degree in dance. And my daddy said, so what else are you gonna do? Because what are you gonna do with that? Like, you need to get a real degree. And I'm sure that a lot of African Americans can vouch with me that that's, you know, that's what a lot of mamas and daddies are saying, that you want to go and get a degree in nothing. That's what my daddy said to me. And I love my daddy, you know, God rest his soul. But he viewed it as a degree in nothing. And then even then when I double majored in religion, he was like, so you nothing on top of nothing. All right, okay, all right, baby. Well, you know, and he loved God, you know, but for him, he didn't see the money. He didn't see the dollars and cents. He didn't see how I was going to be able to stay sane and support myself. So it is a stretch for some African-American families to invest a college education, invest in a, you know, college education if they're not seeing the return. So we need to see the dancers of color come back to the community with their PhDs. We need to see them come back to the community with their, I've traveled all over the world and I am a viable dancer. We need to see it, because otherwise it's just, so you're just going to be, there's only one Misty Copeland. There's only one Judith Jamison. There's only one Alvin Ailey. Why do you think that you're going to be that great? You know, so if we see how broad and how wide the community is, then I think it will help enhance and allow parents to feel freer about sending their children to college on dance, you know, or going to those summer intensives and spending that money, because it can be a viable financial career for them.
Jess, you got anything?
Donji Doggett said, keep the conversation going. Great dialogue.
Oh, I was thinking, like, even if with the summer intensives, like, even if you didn't go and major in dance, like, you learn so many life skills, dancing with people, being on your own, being by yourself. So, I mean, it does teach you a lot as a person on top of dance. You know, dance is self-discipline. I can go on and on of how much dance, you know, helps you. But, I mean, it's so much more than getting a career or making money and doing this. Like, you know, I think we can all say it's a part of us, and we wouldn't be who we are today if we didn't have dance in our lives.
Yeah. You know, I think that we're putting a lot on the students, but really we need to come together as educators and point out the microaggressions that hint at, you know, that are subtle aggressions, and you may not even know it. For instance, I was being measured for a costume. I was 10, 11 years old. I always had a bootay. My popo has always been evident. Even when I was that big, it was a popo on the back of that thing. Anyway, when she measured me, she whispered my measurement. I'm just like,
right.
I had to tuck. They taught back then. They taught Black girls with popos to tuck the popo in.
Right.
You know, so all of those things made me so self-conscious. They didn't whisper to the white girls. They was like 24, 22, 20. I said, you know, but when it came to me, that was one thing that really happened. I was told that with my hair, I had to make sure it was super slick. I had to, of course, pull it back in the bun, but it had to be like super down, pressed down, so it would match my white counterparts. So those type of things, pointing those things out, are aggressions that we need to know. We need to make sure are not happening today.
Right. Right.
And I have to check myself because, like I said, I grew up in all that stuff. So I want to say those things sometimes.
Yeah.
But I had to, when I opened my studio in 88, yeah, it was 88 in New Jersey, I had to change the way I thought because it went from, okay, I want a super sleek bun to, yeah, you can braid it up and put it in a bun. That's fine. No longer it's pulled back. Hey, out of your hair. So.
Yeah, I do a thing with, hair was one of my things too, because, we were always, everybody had the same hair. You either had it slipped back in a bun or one braid or two braids or however, everybody had the same hair. And then when I first had my first teaching job, I was like, okay, this is not going to work because, they had twists and long twists and couldn't get all of it up in one bun, or they had this. And, I know I'm not going to go in there and tell a Black girl what she's going to do and not do with her hair. Like, I know that's not my place. So my thing was just get it out of your face. Like, as long as it's secure and out of your face and not causing any distractions, then I'm okay with it. And that's what I do today. As long as it's back and, not when they turn, it's not slapping them in the face or anything else. I don't care as long as it doesn't take away from what we're trying to do.
I look at the early pictures of dance theater and some of them had afros. I was like, well, I don't remember that. But yeah, I was like, okay, Black power.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting. I don't know if I would do the whole afros at this point because I'm still down with, like, this is bugging me. So I really need to put it back. It needs to be.
I always have
mine. Next question. Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. All right. The next question is, what do you say to little Black dancers in small town USA? I think we've kind of maybe touched on that a bit. What do you say to little Black dancers in small town USA?
It depends on, okay, so I knew I wanted to dance. I was a dancer. Ballet was my foundation. I loved it. So I had to have the pertinacity to continue to go forward. I don't know if our children today have that support, because I had the support from my mom to have the pertinacity to continue to go forward. So again, I put it back on the parents. Is this something your child wants to do? Are you encouraging her? It doesn't matter what color she is, or he, excuse me, if this is something that they want to do, then you got to make every effort to help them to do it. And to the child, to the student, you're gonna take some lumps and bumps. I mean, even if you're white, dance is hard. It's hard. I mean, I'm experiencing things now because of what I did when I was younger with my body. And it's a hard knock life.
Right.
So just with that being said, dance is hard itself, then you have to have a determination in the Constitution to press forward. If you're Black, sorry to say, we got to still have even more Constitution and determination to press forward because we got that extra hurdle to cover.
Right. Yeah, I can speak on that a little bit because the studio that I grew up in, they did a lot of tap dancing. I mean, we did all styles of dance, but the majority was tap. And so I went and I had to research, summer programs, even if it was like a weekend that they were there or whatever. My mom would take me. I was fortunate enough that my mom would drive to like Virginia. That was before they even came to Atlanta. She would drive to Virginia. She'd drive to Tennessee, and we'd just stay for the weekend and let me take class. And coming from, a small studio, you go from being the best to what am I doing in here? Because these girls and guys are awesome. And here I am, you kind of just feel like it humbles you And I think everybody needs to be humble, but I think, you know, if you're at a studio where that's all you have, and you got to go out and search for those places. If you want to be the best, then you got to go out and get humbled and be like, okay, you got to see those people that are better than you. Be like, okay, this is what I need to work at, or this is what I need to do to kind of, you know, to self-assess what you need to work on.
So I'm just going to say, Cheryl Frith Brown says, I made the audition, but had to look like the white girls, and my measurements followed. That's right. You have to, I hate to say have to look white, but yeah.
I think that what Jessica just said is pretty profound, and I think it's profound for Black dancers or white dancers anywhere. I think that if you're the best in your studio, you probably need to go find a new studio.
Right.
It's time for you to get out, because that can be crippling as a dancer. Yeah, if you're the best, and I mean, and I know we all know how dance families are and how we get close and we get tight, and I'm sure there's some studio owners that would be like, you ain't about to take my number one. But if you have a responsibility to your dancers, that if they are the best in your studio, you need to put them somewhere where they can be challenged if everything is easy. Because when they get out there, there's always gonna be somebody better than them. There's always somebody that can do one more turn than they can. There's always somebody that can be on their point shoes longer. There's always gonna be someone else. And we already talked about this industry is hard. It's tough. It's tough on your body. It's tough physically. It's tough mentally. It's tough emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, some of us have had friends, you know, their relationships are strained at auditions. Like, you know, I'm your friend until we get the door. And then once we at the door, whatever. So that casting list goes up. I don't care what your name is. So, you know, I think that we have a responsibility to our dancers to remind them of that we can't shelter and protect them, whether they're dancers of color or not. That we need to make sure we push our dancers to get out of their studio. If this is the only thing that you've ever known, you got to get out and experience somebody else. You got to get out and, you know, be in a position where someone else is going to challenge you in a way that maybe, you know, Miss Susie didn't challenge you because she's known you since you were 5. So
I'm gonna shout out to Brenda and Danielle. Thanks for joining us. Something just popped in my head. Do dance schools have that trajectory for their dancers? Do they have that pipeline for more? One thing I appreciated of the school I went to, well, kind of appreciated, is that I heard everybody going to summer intensives and programs. And I knew the teacher would help certain dancers go to ABT or Dance Theater or wherever. But do we have that trajectory for, again, that pipeline to go from my little local yokel to maybe a regional company, or even, you know, a New York City or Atlanta, or even North Carolina? There are facilities in those areas that would be a higher level of dancing, you know, all day dancing type of thing that they could not get at my dance studio. Or are we making intensives at our studio that bring in talent so our dancers can be seen and get the experience that they need to experience? I think that has a lot to do with dancers getting out there as well, dancers of color.
Right. I know that here in Atlanta, my daughter is just completed her first season with Decatur School of Ballet. Shout out to the Decatur School of Ballet. And they are, since we started there in September 2019, that's all I've seen is that preps for, you know, over Christmas intensive, Thanksgiving intensive, spring break intensive. Now they're even doing summer intensive and, you know, making preparations at the school. So they're bringing in dancers to help expose their, you know, their company dancers. So they're older, you know, my daughter's 7, so she's not a part of that yet, but you know, they're older, advanced ballet, and not just ballet, you know, all across all genres, you know, tap and jazz and modern, to expose their dancers. So I will say that at least for one school in Atlanta, I can't speak for all, but I think that you're absolutely right. We either have to get them out, or we need to make sure that those dancers are coming in so that those dancers can see it. And like we said, them coming in will help the dancers see that this is I at least can leave from New York and come to Atlanta and get paid to dance all summer to teach somebody else dance. It will help make it more realistic for them that this is a real legit path that I can take, and I don't have to buck. I don't have to be half naked. I don't have to drop it like it's hot. I don't have to do that. I don't have to, well, whatever, that's another conversation.
Yeah, Jessica, as a you're a high school dance educator, and
Yes.
you converse with the other high school, elementary school dance educators, right? Do
Yes.
you guys think beyond high school and elementary school for your students?
I think, yes, we do. We have different things set up in the curriculum as far as Honors Dance 3 and Honors Dance 4. They have a choreography. They get to pick either choreography track or a careers track. And in those different tracks, choreography obviously has to go through the choreography process, like everything that you have to do for choreography. And careers is kind of like, what can you do? They get to research a career in dance. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a dancer on stage. It could be a dance teacher. It could be a makeup artist, a costume designer. It could be anything that has to do with dance. I tell them, as long as you can, make that connection for me and I can see that it's a true connection, then, we can talk about it and discuss it. So I think there's that. And then we also do projects about different colleges where they research different colleges and things like that. And our conversation with the college teachers this past week really gave me a lot of great ideas. So I'm going to kind of revamp that I have going on. But as far as like for colleges or professional, I'm not aware of. I know that there's some studios here that do have intensive and things like that. Again, I am in a rural school and a lot of my students don't have dance outside of what's offered in the public school. So, when you get to other schools in my district that, dance at Columbia City Ballet or Columbia City Jazz or Southern Strut or whatever, they have more of those options, but a lot of my students do not.
Had you thought about doing an intensive over the summer for your students?
I mean, I have. This is only my third year at LR at the high school level. So my first year, I was just trying to find my way. And then last year I was working on my program, my master's degree. So we'll see what this year, and I wanted to do one in February, March, but then the whole COVID thing came, so I did not do that.
You did bring me in, so I appreciate that.
I did bring you
in. Next question.
Yeah,
Any questions from our viewers as well? You're welcome to ask questions, viewers.
Yeah. This is probably about the last one. I think the other questions we've touched on. Okay. But this was the biggie. What question about racism in dance is, what is the question about racism in dance that nobody's asking?
I think, like, kind of to piggyback on what we discussed earlier, like the casting and things like that, holding the directors of these big companies in our communities responsible of, casting that looks like represents the community that you're working in, that you're surviving in, that you're getting funds from, to represent everybody that comes to see you.
Yeah, I would like to ask, I think, so it's a two-parter. Mm-hmm. Do you really believe that Black dancers or dancers of color do not have the right body type for classical ballet? I would like to ask that question, and then I want them to prove it to me. Please prove that. That's not a question part, but yeah. What can you tell me about our bodies that makes you believe that? Because there's still company directors that and choreographers or whatever that believe that myth. I need to know why they still believe that. And yeah.
I think my question would be, do we, in order to break down the systematic racism in dance, is there still a need for historically Black dance companies? I think that's my question, and I'm open to hearing both sides. So I would love for people to chime in. If you're watching, please put your responses. But do we still, if we are really going to break down systematic racism, if we're going to get some of these casting directors to cast based upon talent and not based upon skin color, do we need to have a place and a space for Ballet Ethnic and then the Atlanta Ballet? Or is there just one dance company that represents what the city of Atlanta looks like, or Metro Atlanta looks like?
You know, I was thinking about that. I think we kind of touched on it when we were talking off camera, but if we could get, what was it, Atlanta Ballet
Mm-hmm.
to be
Atlanta.
racially diverse and Ballet Ethnic to be racially diverse, we could still have the two companies, and you can still call them what you want to call them, as long as they represented the communities in which they reside in.
Right.
They both have to represent Atlanta.
Right.
And not saying that they need to be 90% Black, but that it needs to have a diverse culture so that anybody who comes to see, whether they are Asian or Black or whatever, Mexican, you know, it doesn't matter. They need to see themselves. And if that is not happening, so my answer to you, Crystal, is we don't have to join them. We just have to make sure that each one is looking like the community.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and how does that happen? I think I've been saying for years and years and years that even the schools don't look like the community. So it's got to start lower than even the company, or maybe simultaneously, that we seek out dancers of color, that we learn how to teach based on the bodies that they have. Everybody's body is different. Black, white, purple, or green. You got to learn how everybody learns differently. You know, you may have to count for me, you may have to sing for them. That's why the teachers say da 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 da. Because somebody needs that audio cue. Have to address each company to represent the community and the schools as well, to seek out dancers of color. That's the only way it's going to happen. If we don't seek out dancers of color, and not just Black dancers, dancers of color, period. So if my school is majority Black, then I need to seek out some white dancers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why is my school majority Black?
Right.
Not like I have a sign that say Black only.
Right. Mm-hmm. There's a minister at my church. She sends out these weekly emails, and the first word I see in her emails, it's not the first word in her email, but the first word I see on her emails every week is the first few words: be intentional.
Right.
You know? And so I think for me, it just speaks volumes as I do things. I have to remind myself that I have to be intentional. And that, for me, that means being on purpose. Like, I'm doing it on purpose. I am purposefully making the decision to do whatever that is, fill in that blank. And I think that that's where we have to start to call things out. We have to be intentional, that we are going to purposefully go after dancers of color, or I'm purposely going to go after dancers of non-color or different color, or whatever that means. I think that I would like to see our directors and casting and boards and whoever's in charge of these dance companies, ballet, modern, jazz, hip hop, whatever they are, be intentional about making your dance company be diverse. Because if you're not intentional about making it diverse, you're intentionally being racist.
Right. Agreed. It needs to, your advertisements need to say, I hate to say it, but they need to say dancers of color welcome. You know, because we may look at your company as a white dance company. You know, nobody looks at ABT as a Black company, but they look at Dance Theater Harlem as a Black company.
Right.
That's, so race, is it a company first or is it a race first?
And then too, you know, Black companies were created because they weren't in the white companies. So, and I think Ashley kind of talked on that a little bit too, just like that comfort feeling of dancing with like bodies and things like that. Like I wouldn't want to see people lose that.
Yeah, that's true. Oh,
Right.
But
Actually,
then again, if you put it in a white situation, like, like then it makes
mhm,
it totally different.
right. Actually, I had two comments. Somehow I missed, I don't know what's going on with my Facebook right now, but I missed a couple comments. So I just want to go back and plug these in really quick.
yes.
Ashley said, yes, hair was a major microaggression growing up. Also costume choices. Everybody's body should feel safe and secure in the choices that are made. So
Good. That's a good
and
comment.
then Ashley said, yes, I believe there is a need for ethnic dance companies. Why does a minority have to rid themselves of the spaces that we built just to be seen and integrated and accepted into the spaces of the majority? I don't think that we need to rid ourselves, but I think that we, if we're going to ask the predominantly white companies to make themselves diverse, then we also, and I think that it's okay for us to have our history and maintain our history, but we can't ask one company to do something that we're not willing to do.
True.
I think we've got work to do on both ends. I think that there are some traditions that are wonderful that are, and I'm having this same conversation in terms of the church as well, and that's a whole nother side topic.
Yes.
Well, we want to be the Black church forever. Anyway, we won't talk about that right now. We can't ask them to do something that we're not willing to. We got to open up our doors as well. We as the minority have always had the responsibility of taking the first step or taking the bigger step or being the bigger person. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
And it probably means making some hard choices too. Absolutely seeking out Black ballerinas to teach ballet, or white hip hop dancers to teach hip hop, or you know what I'm saying? It's like being intentional about what you're choosing to do. And that kind of walks a fine line, because you don't want to pick somebody just because they're Black.
Right.
But you don't want to pick somebody just because they're white either.
Right.
So we gotta, again, merit. It's a fine line. It's like, whew, how do I do this?
But not just getting them either. Like they need to support them as well, because I can see, like if you did get, a Black ballet teacher coming to teach a bunch of little white girls ballet, you might get some, backlash from that. So you have to support them and be willing to stand up to whatever comes with your decision. Like you made your decision, you have to stick by it and support this person that you just brought in.
That's right.
Right.
It's tough. We're having these conversations, people, because these are the tough questions. These are the tough solutions. And unless we get it out there, how are we going to address it? Yes, I was known as a Black dance studio for 25 years. I could count the number of white girls I had in my dance studio over those 25 years, probably on one hand. And did I go out seeking Caucasians? No, I actually did open to provide a place for African Americans to feel comfortable when they were taking class, so that their body types were not looked at differently, or hair, or all of that stuff. So am I guilty of having a Black studio? Yeah. But now things are different. And let me just say this. I have always said, Crystal, you've heard me say a plie is a plie. It don't have no color.
Yeah.
Right.
So it wasn't that I hung up my shingle that said Blacks only.
Right.
But that's who, when they saw me, that's what my studio was considered as a Black studio. So those were the clientele that I attracted.
That's the case for any business. That, it's like Ren was saying about her daughter, that, in the store, the doll was just a doll, but when it was a Black doll, it had to say Black doll.
Right.
So a business is just a business until it's a Black owned business, and then it's a Black owned business. So we've got to.
It would be really great if there were two studios. One is Black owned and one is white owned. And then like every month they switched teachers and stuff.
That would be great. That'd
That
be great.
would be really great.
Right.
Or half of their send one of their classes over there and send one of
Right.
their classes over there. That would really be like great in order for them to get a different perspective and a different feel,
Mhm.
because it is, racism is learned.
It is.
And
It is.
even if it's subtly learned, it's learned.
Mhm.
Well, anything else, ladies, for tonight? Any other
Yeah.
questions from our people watching? You want to ask your people? Anybody want to ask any other questions? So while we're waiting on questions, let me just say that this Thursday at 8 o'clock, that's July the 23rd, 8 p.m., we will have Brooklyn Mac on. Yes, the awesome, world renowned, literally, Brooklyn Mac is coming on Dance Conversations. We might have a surprise guest this week too. I can't tell you that yet, but definitely Brooklyn Mac. And I'm so excited to have Brooklyn because he has traveled all over the world. He does feel passionately about racism in dance, and he's experienced racism in dance. And he's a Black man. So his experience would definitely be different than Black females would be.
Right. Right.
Danced with companies that are world renowned companies. And I'm excited to I want to just sit and listen to him for a while and let him just talk to us and tell us what his experiences are here in the States as opposed to overseas. And he's dancing Europe. I think he's dancing Australia. He's dancing South America, and he's dancing in Africa. I'm really excited to hear the different experiences that he's had all over the world with, or maybe not, racism, where he was accepted and cheered or not. So Brooklyn Mac this Thursday, 8 o'clock. Y'all put it in your calendar. Why we got to remind you so much? I enjoyed. I said tonight I was going to tell my story, but my story really is about growing up in the South, growing up with with implicit bias, racism that really wasn't hidden. You didn't have to say it for it not to be hidden. And how it affected me as I was growing up. Probably I think I was about 14 or 15, I decided to quit. I just couldn't take it anymore. It was really hard to be a Black woman, young woman in classical ballet in the South. I've told many, many stories about it, and sometimes you just got to let things rest. But I could sit here all night and tell you the different stories different events that have happened in my life as a Black dancer and how it impacted my career and how both negatively and positively. So we have to make sure that we begin to address the issues. I don't want little dancers of color growing up with what I had to grow up with.
Right.
I don't want them to feel the things that I had to feel.
Yeah.
I don't want them to have to, go through body shaming and colorism, color shaming and racism. And look, we get enough from the world. My birth certificate says Negra. That's how, right, exactly. I ain't that old. I'm still cute in the face. But growing up with those type of predominant feelings, although they weren't said. Now I will have to say this. There were lights. I told Ren, I thank Ren for being a light. Ann Richardson, she's here in South Carolina as well. Just a light, even in all of that darkness. I was ignored basically in dance class. What I got because I wanted, and I watched and I listened. And one correction I give all my dancers is always listen to everybody else's correction and apply it, because that's how I learned a lot when I was growing up. So make sure that you are really looking at every dancer. Every dancer counts. You know, Black dancers matter. Black dance matters. And I hate to use, because there's no such thing as Black dance. It's just dance, people. It's just dance. A plie doesn't have a color. It just doesn't. And until we get to the place where we can address every dancer based on their merit, based on how determined they are, based on their talent, and not based on the color of their skin, whether or not we give them a part or whether or not we look at them in class and correct them. We're causing problems. I got knee problems, I got back problems, because I was doing stuff wrong for a long time till I was grown, because I was not corrected when I was here at home. We owe dance more than that, and we owe our students more than that as well.
Right.
We just do. We owe our babies, whether they are Black or white, we owe them excellence. And racism is so far from excellence. We started Dance Conversations with Gail, but we also have another hashtag that says I See Me. And we need to see ourselves on stage in order for it to be real.
I think you're right. We owe our children so much better.
Yeah.
So much more. And we always say, we hope our children grow up in a better world than we have, but we have to be responsible to make it a better world.
Yes.
And it's so far beyond dance. I mean, we're starting with dance, but it's so far beyond dance. And if we can fix dance, then maybe we can help fix the world.
Yeah.
And our children will really grow up in a world where they know people instead of colors.
Yeah.
And appreciate colors because of traditions and heritage and background. Yeah. But their focus will be on Jessica as a person, Gail as a person,
yes.
Crystal as a person, Sammy as a person, Ashanti as a person,
yes.
Muhammad as a person. So we've got to fix this thing so that way we can fix our world, we can fix our society, we can fix our nation.
Yeah.
We can fix our backyards, we can fix our own hometowns. So
I think I want to say it was Frederick Douglass, don't get me wrong if I do, but he said, we cannot be who we cannot see. I'm paraphrasing. We cannot be who we cannot see. So if we don't see ourselves dancing Sugar Plum, dancing Clara, dancing I did the Nutcracker in Jersey, and he had the big Nutcracker hat off. And when he took his hat off, is this gorgeous Black man, and literally the audience said, They were just astounded to see. They'd not seen a Black Nutcracker before. Go figure.
Right.
So if we do not see ourselves, then we're not able to, and that goes for any color, Black, white, purple, or green. I don't think it's purple people, but if we don't see ourselves, then we have nothing to aspire to. Right. So hashtag I See Me, hashtag dancing towards diversity. We will continue to push the envelope and have these questions. Matter of fact, I'm gonna post, we got some special guests coming up in the next few weeks. I'm gonna make a list of all the guests we have coming up in the next few weeks in the different categories. We've kind of slid them in. But this week, definitely, Brooklyn Mac is coming, and I'm so excited. So stay tuned for that. Jessica, you got anything you want to finish up with?
No, I'm just excited that we're doing all these dance conversations. I've been learning as we've been going, and I just like having this conversation.
Me too. Chrissy.
Same.
Thank
Ditto.
you. Okay. You guys continue to join us. Share this with somebody, please. Remind them about Thursday. You know, I start posting tomorrow about who's going to be on, but you already know it's going to be Brooklyn. So I know you guys are excited to have him and to hear what he has to say. I want to thank you guys, Cynthia, Lisa, Bryant, Margaret, Sparrow, Brenda, Sherry, Danielle, Cheryl Frith, and Lynetta. Let's see who else came on. Lisa J, Marlena. Thank you guys for coming on. Don, Natalia, Angel, Danielle. Thank you guys for coming and joining us. Michael, Darius, hi. Hi.
Ashley, Wanda.
Stephanie Denson, Whitney, Deborah Jacobs. Thank you guys for coming on. Deborah Mara Donaldson. Thank you. Who else you got, Crystal?
I think you said all the people. Naya, Tashia, Ashley, Dondi, Wanda, Stephanie Morris.
That all of
Yeah, a bunch of people.
You, Jessica? Anybody else?
Let's see. I had Lola, Stephanie, Bradley Schuler, Patricia Fitzgerald, Sharon, Jennifer, Erica, April, Brandon, Amanda, Antonio, Stephanie Goldking, Tracy Matthews, Maribel, Jordan, Hampton, Hubbard, Jeremy, Sean Treese, and Akayla.
Oh, very good. Thank you all for joining us tonight for Dancersation with Gail, Crystal, and Jessica. We'll see you on Thursday. Please share this. We just want to make this conversation comfortable enough that change happens. Change, my sister always says, change won't change until it's changed. We got to do. All right. Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great night. And we will see you on the other side. Let's see. Live on Facebook. Crystal, stay on.
Yeah.